What happened?
We had no audio there for those listening. So thanks to our local listener who made sure he pointed that out.
Thank you.
I apologize for that. We'll kick this kind of off again and just go through a little bit more. So Ray, as you were saying, turned down by God, kind of chased away from the church for not being the ideal, follower, not having the ideal scenario, the ideal family.
Right. Things I had no control over either.
Sure, especially as a kid, right? So you're taking that path as, you know what, I hate everything about religion, I hate everything about God. I'm going to do my own thing. And I understand your family had kind of an adventurous way of living their life. So why don't you share that a little bit?
Yeah. My one aunt is the only one that really went to church. The rest of the family, my mom is one of 7. So all my uncles and aunts were heavy drinkers, pot smokers, and it was always a party. It didn't matter what the occasion was, if it was a sad, grieving occasion or bad news, or it was joyous. It was always alcohol and some form of drugs, pills or weed. And it was, their way of coping with things, that you celebrated it and joyous. And when it was the bad stuff, you numbed yourself to it. And that's kind of what, you're a product of your environment. So that's what I learned. And that's what I did, essentially, was just numb the pain of rejection from God, rejection from my biological father. And I was actually very small as a child. My dad used to tease me. My stepdad, I will refer to him as my dad because that's the man that raised me. But he would tease me all the time and tell me he wanted me to be a jockey because I was short, I wore slim.
I was like, you mean a jock? I was like, oh, you mean the little tiny people that ride horses?
Right. So yeah, I was really tiny. I was bullied a lot in school and picked on, and it was, I just never fit in anywhere, and it was very hard for me, and it was never finding a place like where I felt like I belonged. And then here came some guys that were smoking weed and said, hey, you want to, and now I've actually got somebody talking to me that's not smacking me or taking my lunch money or, I'm like, yeah, I'm in, I'm all for that.
Sure.
And, again, just accelerated that, and that worked, that numbed that pain that made everything better at the time. And, just ran wild with it. By the end, I'm drinking a case of beer, a fifth of Jack, and eating or snorting 25, 30 Vicodin a day just to maintain. And, that's not counting anything else that was on the table, whatever you had. If you had money, sex, drugs, or alcohol, let's talk. If you don't, gone. Next, I mean, that's just how I lived. That's what it was about.
Dude, that's got to be an intense life, I'm sure. Now, biker, correct?
Yes, yeah, biker.
So you were doing all that while you were on a bike.
On a bike. I remember one time we went into the kickstand, and the barmaid's like, what are you guys doing? Like, you guys can't even walk. I mean, we're stumbling and falling. And I'm like, God meant for you to be on 2 wheels. He didn't mean for you to be walking anywhere. So, I mean, I ride better when I'm drunk because I'm more focused.
Oh, okay.
I was one of those guys.
Fair enough. And then Shawn, let's go just a little bit about yourself as well. I understand currently you run your own construction company, but when you found your way into alcoholism and fighting that, were you running your own place at that point in time, or were you working for somebody else?
Mostly working for somebody else. I mean, just to back up, I very fortunately I'm the opposite. I had a great.
That's why we put the phones on.
I did. Sorry. I had a great childhood. I had very supportive parents, great family, very close-knit family. Well, I mean, we did celebrate, whether it be death in the family or, birthday or stuff like that. We did all the celebrations, but, I had a very loving family. My parents weren't divorced and things like that. And cousins, I have a ton of cousins. But, go through college and graduated college and got married, had kids. But by that point, alcohol just, I never quit. I never grew up. And then I just continued to do it. And as my peers around me did it less and less, I got to make up for them or something. I don't know. I just kept going. I kept accelerating. And the alcoholism just grew and grew and denied it for decades. but I think I got sober at 45, and over from 21 to 45, I don't think I had more than 6 or 7 days in a span without drinking anything in that length of time. Probably 3 days, if I'm honest. You know,
Insane.
and that not getting drunk, but having a couple beers or something. And I just, I thought that was normal. But no, I always, had construction company or construction in my blood. And, I graduated college at I got an urban design major from the University of Cincinnati. I started working with a guy down there in Cincinnati. We were building homes, and he made me a superintendent, and things were going well. We had a falling out, switched companies to a commercial company, and I worked for them for 8 years. And then I had gone through a divorce and moved back up here, dating my fiance now, or my fiance now, Molly, and we had our struggles because of my alcoholism. I was hiding it and lying to everybody and saying I was doing this and saying I wasn't doing that. I got laid off because of my drinking from a company up here, but that wasn't the reason, because they didn't have any proof. Him and I both knew that he knew I was drinking on a job, but he didn't catch me doing anything.
Right.
So he just made up an excuse like, "This is why we're letting you go."
Right. But
we both knew why.
Right.
And so I was forced to make money legitimately. I've never really been a thief or anything like that. So I started doing my own thing, and it went good for a little while, and then slowly just started going downhill, because now I even had more freedom to drink.
Yeah.
Drinking during the day and go to a job for a little bit, leave.
And two, you don't have anybody to hold you accountable to when
No,
you're
I had
on the
no
job
accountability.
site. Like if you're, leaving, coming back, if you're going to the store to grab a 6-pack, chug it real quick. Like nobody's seeing any of those different actions. So like
Right.
you're just living your best life, and at least what you think is your
Yeah,
best life.
what I thought was just living a lie. And then I like I said, mentioned many times down here is, God finally entered my life. I was actively drinking May 24th, 2020. So May 25th of 2020 is my sobriety date. And I actively drinking in a Walmart parking lot here in Medina, and just had this feeling God, I just felt it. He's just like, "Here, let's do it my way this time." I've several run in with the law, DUIs, DWIs, OVIs, whatever. Every time they come up with a new letter for it, I had to get one.
Sure. Yeah, right.
So I, just week county stuff here and there, weekends, no major things, all misdemeanors. I mean, they're major,
they add up though, right? Like that's the problem. It's like now, like as you realize the second time, you're like, oh, it's not an issue. It's not me. It's not who I am. And then the third time, you're like, oh, I'm kind of a shitbag. Like I've been here 3 times and I keep telling the judge this is gonna be the last time, or whatever the case might be. And it's like,
yeah. And like I said, on the first time I was on here, I didn't learn that don't drink and drive. It was, my first thing was, don't speed while you're drinking and driving. Don't run a stop sign while you're drinking and driving. Don't swerve. So I never got pulled over for speeding twice drinking and driving, or swerving twice for drinking and driving.
Right.
Because those were the problems. It wasn't the drinking and driving.
Yeah.
I sneezed or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So yeah, fast forward then, 2016 to 2020, it was just going downhill real quick. My relationship was done. She didn't want to do anything with me. I had few friends, if anything. My cousins loved me, but everybody knew I was drinking. And anyway, like I said, May 24th, 2020, God just was like, let's do this my way. I dumped out everything I had, either open or unopened. Went to my soon-to-be brother-in-law's house, and I was like, I need help. And he's about fucking time. He's like, go home. And I went home and stayed on the couch. And the next day, which was Memorial Day, Monday, I went out to my cousin's and borrowed a trailer to go get some material for a job. And I did do that. Went back to his house to drop the trailer off. And he's like, can you hang out for a little while? I said, sure. It's Monday, Memorial Day. And shortly after, like, Molly came in, my mom came in, some other cousins came in. And I just knew, like, this is the second thing now that got, they did an intervention. They didn't know that I went asked for help the day before, but it's just two things right in a row, less than 24 hours that,
it's just a sign that this
yeah,
is the right
it just,
time.
you get tired. I just got tired of lying. I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. It's an overwhelming task.
Well, it's not only it's not just the feeling, because obviously, like, I mean, it's funny because now if I have a few too many drinks, like, I notice it the next day, right? But when I was drinking more often, I didn't notice it as much.
Right.
I could still function, I could still get up early, I could still do all that stuff, but then 3 o'clock you're at like 50% level. 4 or 5 o'clock you're at like 30% level. But I'd imagine going through that phase where you're doing it constantly every single day, like, you just get used to that being the normal. But then now being sober for, a considerable amount of years, you're obviously, in great shape. You work out all the time. You got your own construction business. Ray, you've been sober now for how long?
16 years.
Yeah. So 16 years. Wow. Okay. So do you guys notice a difference in the way that you guys feel now on a daily basis? Is like waking up in the morning a little easier and those types of things. And,
my daily routine now is I get up in the morning at 4 o'clock almost every morning now, or, every day. I set an alarm. A lot of times I'm up before the alarm. If I make it till 5, man, that's sleeping in for me. I get down and, before I turn on the news or get on Facebook or do anything, I know I have, I read the 3rd step prayer, 11th step prayer. I get on I got these apps and read. There's like 2 or 3 different daily devotions that I read, and then I talk to God. And, like I said yesterday, I run everything through God. If I got any troubles, any problems, anything else on my mind, good, bad, ugly, whatever it be, I ask for him to help me do his will, because I didn't do very good for 20 some years. I had some good times. I had some great times, but there's the bad times in between it weighs everything down.
Well, valleys, right?
Ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
But it's just, I get right with God and I move on. I start my day. I get out of bed 90% of the time, like, energized, like, ready to go. Let's take on today. Thank God for letting me wake up today and keep me sober for yesterday and help me stay sober today. Yeah. I'll worry about tomorrow when I get there.
I mean, that's the only thing you can really do, and for those that are tuning in, feel free to comment if you got questions or if you want to ask anything of the guys. And I know we've talked a lot about God and you guys finding your way through God so far. I want everybody out there to know, like, that's not necessarily the idea of the show being strictly about following the path of Jesus and things like that. It's the idea of anybody can find somewhere to go,
Right.
And I've had multiple scenarios where I've really reevaluated. I'll never forget, I lived in Worcester when I first got out of the military. Well, first of all, when I was in the military, Kansas State University was 15 minutes off post. I'm a 19-year-old, 20-year-old kid. Like, I want to be at the college campus every single night, partying with everybody. So did all my buddies. Thursday was Thirsty Thursday. For you guys now, I feel bad. You probably did not get to experience a Thirsty Thursday the way I did. 10-cent wings and $1 long necks. You could go down there with, and $1 well drinks at the local bar. Right. So, I mean, you could go down there with $40 and you could leave with a full belly and, your liver's hating you the next morning. And it was on Thursday, and Friday mornings was our company run in the Army. So we had to run 5 miles after doing that all night. And the whole formation just smelled like alcohol. But everybody had a good time. It was a party. It was fun. I always imagined that was similar to college, except I had to be up every morning at 5 o'clock to do PT. I had a job that I had to focus on throughout the day. So, like, it never got out, away from me. And then when I got back, I bought my house out in Worcester. I was kind of in the middle of nowhere. Most of my buddies lived out there. If anybody's been into the Worcester, Creston, area, there's not a whole lot out there. Burbank has one cop at the time. I don't think they have any now. It was just sheriffs. We used to drive around. I mean, we used to go to Dragway 42 and have a 6-pack in the center console when we lined up our trucks on the drag strip. Like, nobody cared, so it kind of allowed us to get away with a lot. And I'll never forget, there was one night we were in Akron and we were having a good time, and our friends called us and were like, "Hey, come down to Columbus." Now it's like 12 o'clock at night. So by the time you get down to Columbus, which is a 2-hour drive from Akron, that nobody's going to be awake. Yet I thought it was a good idea to go do it. Right? Girls were definitely involved. And I woke up driving down the median of 71, like a 200 feet away from the exit that I would have gotten off if I was going to my house versus going to Columbus. And it was like, all right, what are you doing? Like, this is too much. But did that stop me? No, because nothing happened, right? So then, down the road, and now to the point where I do enjoy a drink and things like that, but I will not drink anything and drive. Like, it's just not worth the risk. But I looked at it as kind of something different. I know you guys look at it as following Jesus and God is kind of where you led that. I just kind of looked at like it was more internal. Like I have kind of the power internally to change anything that I want. My own higher power, should you say, whether it's, my ancestors and the souls and that I've traveled through, the bodies that I've traveled through, whatever the case might be. I don't understand it. I don't know. There's just somewhere where when I'm in trouble or I need something, like I feel like I can just talk to my subconscious and I can get myself an answer. And I think I've always kind of imagined that's what prayer was for those who follow Christ. Like because it's not like Jesus is coming down and saying, "Hey, Ray, I got you, bro." Like you're not having a conversation with him. You're having a conversation with him through your own subconscious, right? He's not sitting in front of you physically, shaking your hand, whatever.
Right.
And I don't mean to discourage that prayer. It's just, to me, it's kind of the same thing. We're just looking at it a different way. But everybody has their ups and downs. And it's not just like falling down from addiction. That's obviously one thing, but you guys mentioned relationship struggles. In today's day and age, when a man's going through a divorce, typically it's harder on him than it is on the wife, because the court's going to always make sure that the wife is taken care of. They're going to make sure that she's going to get the majority of custody and all these different things. And there is a point in time where between walking around money, alimony, child support, and all those things the courts required me to give out, like I couldn't afford to live anywhere. I was living with my sister for about 2 months, but then her and her new husband were getting ready to have a baby, and they're like, "Hey, we need the house, we need the room, we kind of got to get you the fuck out of here in one way or another." And I slept in my truck for about 2 months. I'd either sleep outside of Planet Fitness or I'd sleep at a rest stop, and then I'd go to Planet Fitness first thing in the morning. But I guess that's where I wanted to kind of go into next, as we talk about daily habits. So when I hit that low point, leading up to that point, I was still going out, still partying, things like that. I hadn't really kind of focused on what the next step was. I was kind of lost, I guess you would say. But then when you're sleeping in your truck, you really have nothing else to do. You're watching TV on your phone or YouTube or whatever. And then that's it. And then you're sitting in a truck by yourself. And then you got to get up in the morning. You got to find a place to shower. So you're heading to Planet Fitness. Well, I might as well work out. So let's talk a little bit about the different daily habits that, young men, old men, and between can get into. So Shawn, you mentioned you get up every day, at 4 a.m. For me, it's supposed to be 5. The last couple of days, it's been like 6:30, which is not normal, but these have been running a little bit late recently. And that's without bourbon, which I can only imagine if I was trying to do that. But for me, it's like a 5 o'clock. My first thing that I have to do in the morning is and I don't know if you guys do anything to track this stuff, but I use this thing called the Habits app, where you can plug in the daily habits that you want to do for the day. And then as soon as you do them, you get to slide this little slider bar over and it goes to ding, and you're like instant gratification. Right. It's kind of like when you get a like on Facebook, you're like, sweet, they appreciate that, And it's like my rewarding way. So it's like I get up, first thing I do is take a cold shower. Second thing I do is I take my morning vitamins. Third thing I do is make sure I get a certain amount of protein or whatever it is. And then I head out to the gym. So what are some things that you guys kind of start your day off? You started to mention that earlier, Shawn.
Yeah.
If you want to go into that and then allow Ray to kind of go into his stuff.
Yeah, no, like I said, I go through my several prayers and readings. I talk to God, get right with him. Yeah, I don't see him right in front of me, but I am talking to him. In my mind, I'm talking to him. A lot of people call it conscience or whatever, but once I get that going, I have I have probably 3 or 4 cups of coffee before I go to the gym. I go to my fiance's gym here in Medina at least 4 days a week, 5 if I'm feeling frisky. And then come home, get showered, get cleaned up. I try to eat an avocado for breakfast, protein shakes. And and then I head out the door. I mean, I'm very appreciative of my customers, and my company is just doing really well. I have a great guy working for me now, with me, I should say. It's just going really good. You know, I have, every time I have a bad thing happen, I don't force it to correct the situation. Something presents itself that helps that, either that void or that problem. And I know that's God taking care of me. I don't try to force a situation anymore. I used to do it all the time when I was younger, and it just blew up in my face.
Sure.
I work all day. I give 100% what I can that day. If I don't get done, I know I can do it tomorrow. I don't worry about it. I don't try to give myself too much time constraints, as far as like, I gotta get this done in like 12 hours, knowing it's going to take me 36. Because then it's going to set me up for failure.
Yeah,
if I end up having extra time, then I get to do more things, and, like coming here tonight, coming here last night, tomorrow night, I get to go to Grafton and do cellular recovery with the prisoners there. Thursdays, I try to stay home. Friday night, I go to a meeting in Valley City. On the weekends, try to do stuff with Molly, or if I have to work, I have to work. I try not to, but my day's full, and it's amazing how much I get done versus 5 years ago, because I would nap all day. I knew like where every good parking spot was in Medina County and in Wayne, to go sit and park and try to get a 10-minute snooze.
That's why I was going to kind of ask you there, is like, obviously your day,
because I couldn't do it
now with all this different stuff that you're trying to do.
Yeah.
But without those bad habits, you have a lot more time to do them, I would imagine. Right.
Yeah. It's amazing how much more time I have. It's insane. It really is.
Now, do you feel that, and we got a question from Dean, we'll get to you in a little bit, bud, but do you feel that part of you wanting to run and gun and keep things going and always be on the move, is that you keeping yourself kind of like on your toes in a sense?
At the beginning, definitely it was. Probably for about a little over a year. And I remember one day specifically sitting in the living room, no one was home. There's things I could be doing, sitting on the couch, and I just have this complete ease over me. And I was like, what is this? I'm comfortable. I'm happy. Nothing's going on. I don't feel rushed to go do something. And that's that peace and serenity is finally setting in. And that, I strive for that every day. I live in full gratitude almost every minute. I'm very grateful to be here right now.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
And
We're happy to have you.
I don't have, I don't know. I honestly believe that running and gun and trying to do this and stay busy is just, my habit, like my habit checklist. I don't have to. I could stop. Sound like a drug addict. I can do it. I can stop anytime I want.
I can make it go away. Yeah.
But no, I don't feel pressure to, okay, as soon as I'm done with here, I got to go do this because it's not bedtime yet.
Yeah.
So.
All right, Ray. Well, let's get to you. This was kind of your idea as far as talking habits. So, you've probably created some over the 16 years of sobriety for yourself. What are some things that worked from you? And go from there.
So one of the first things I do before I even get out of bed is pray immediately. Thankful to be awake, alive, all the blessings of my life, and just ask God, who's my higher power, guide me. Your will be done, not mine. We see what my life's like when I'm running a show, so we definitely don't want to do that. And
real quick, I don't want to forget this question, so I don't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
But for you and for you, Shawn, real quick, you guys talk about the first thing you do is you pray to God. First thing. Do you guys remember the first time that you did that? Do you remember like the day you woke up and you're like, I'm going to pray to God this morning, or I'm going to read the book this today?
I used to pray to God a lot, before I got sober, but I meant it this time.
Yeah, well, that's where I'm kind of questioning. Like, do you remember the time where like when you were doing it because like you just woke up and just felt like you wanted to, rather than like, please God, don't get me in trouble. Or,
right. Yeah, no, I want to, because I know it's because of him. And like I said, my higher power, I like grateful to call him God, is I'm still alive, and I just my life is just I had I have people in my family that might die or things happen, they blow up, but I can always see the good in everything, and everything kind of happens for a reason. Um, I want to talk to God. He's my best friend, and it's not just in the morning. If I'm
Right.
working and throughout the day, I'm in my truck around other people. I talk to him. It's like even my friend Craig who works with me. He'll laugh and chuckle, and I've even seen him like, oh, that's God working for you now. It's rubbing off on him.
All right, Ray, I cut you off. So, do you remember the first morning that you woke up and you just did? I mean, it's probably forever ago, but do you
no,
remember?
actually, it's not that long ago.
Okay.
Again, going back to my story, I could not even fathom my own higher power. For the first 7.5 years of my sobriety, I was so angry and so raging at God that I used my sponsor's higher power. And but it was July 12th, 2020, standing in the parking lot of Heartland Community Church. It was COVID, where I got baptized and decided to turn my life and my will over to Christ. And it was just amazing. And I woke up that next morning, started talking to God then and haven't stopped. So that's
how you start out that day.
That's it. And so, yeah, I do my morning prayer, and then I have several. So I'll pick and choose. Like some days I'm feeling this, some days I'm feeling that. Like I have Wisdom of Hope, um, Strength for Hope from Billy Graham. I have Walking the Line, Johnny Cash's daily devotion. That
okay.
is
Okay. So these are books, or
yes,
these? Okay.
books. And Walking with God. So those are hardcover or hard copies that I have. I have Rick Warren's Daily Hope and Daily Verse on my phone, and Wisdom Hunters is like a meditation devotion that if I'm running late for work or something's going on where I don't have that time to sit down and read the books, like I like to take like an hour in the morning and do my prayer, do my devotions, and then kind of read through the Bible. If I don't have that kind of time, which usually with work, I work at the steel mill. We're running on coffee and 4 or 5 hours of sleep typically. And it's like, I have that my phone. So when I get a slow time at work, I'll pull out that devotion and I'll read it, or I'll throw my AirPods in and listen to the meditation music and that daily devotion. And that just helps me set my day. And I got to tell you, whether it's a higher power or whatever it is, the days that I don't, like, I'm like, oh crap, I'm late for work, whatever, get a call that I need to jump out of bed, and I don't start my day that way. My day is just miserable right out of the gate until I stop and reset and then do that. And then it typically gets better.
Yeah, I would think that's, I mean, for me, it's the same thing. Like, when I get up at 5 o'clock and I'm out at the door at 5:30 and on my way to the gym, I feel like $1,000,000. I start the day at 6 o'clock, 6:30, and I don't get to the gym till 7. Like, it's a different story. It's a different workout. Like, now I can already feel myself rushing because I got to start doing stuff for work at 9 o'clock, or I got to be here. I got an appointment. And it's like, just kind of throws your whole day out of whack when you get out of, out of sync with yourself on what's important on a daily basis. And I imagine for somebody going through a struggle or a hard time, like, you get out of sync and it just gives you time to get right back into like the, oh, I can't do anything right, or I can't do anything right mentality.
Right. It's that first thing goes wrong and it's like, it irritates you, and it could be the smallest thing, but you get 100 small things. Now it's a big deal, where if you have your mindset and you're ready for the things to go wrong, you can kind of brush them off, like, and not let it affect you, where otherwise, yeah, it's just going to affect me and eat away at me.
For sure. All right. So Dean's got a question here, and it's interesting too. Before we get into this, you guys both mentioned meditation music, and my dad was sober for, I think the longest stretch that I recall was like 14 years. My stepdad, but once again, he raised me. Wouldn't have it any other way. But do you guys ever listen to Kitaro? You ever heard of Kataro?
Mm-mm.
I just remember when I was a kid, Kataro was like this like hippie California type dude that my dad listened to, and like that. I mean, let's not. I was also like in the 80s. So like it was cassette tapes. And I just remember he'd pop these cassette tapes and we'd be like driving through the mountains in Big Bear Mountains or something in California and like just hearing this like for like hours. And I'd be like, oh, meanwhile, I got Genesis on my freaking Walkman in the back seat. And I don't know the words, so I'm just mumbling out loud, and he's got to kick my butt. But I just remember when he talked about meditation music, I remember him listening to guitar all the time. And then obviously the big book that he carried around everywhere he went.
Right.
You know, and that's obviously there's a specific way to go through it through AA. And then there's other ways as well. But Dean asked, you know, hey, look, is AA the only way to get sober, to be sober? Is it to stick to that AA platform?
I would have to say initially starting, yes, 100%. There has not been, to my knowledge or anybody that I'm familiar with, a better way. It has the most highest success rate. And again, it works if you work it. You have to be ready. But I mean, if you work the program, I mean, it tells you right in the big book, we very seldom see it fail.
Well, you know, and it's interesting because I'm a challenger when I hear things, and obviously, like when I hear like, hey, like this is the best way to get sober, this is the most. The back of my mind, I'm like, or you could just stop drinking, working out, go do something else, hang out with people that play miniature golf instead of go to bars. You know, to me, I could think of a million ways. So when you credit hold on a second. There we go. I'm trying to hit buttons at the same time as talking, and it's not going well. So when you credit the success to AA and the platform and the big book and things like that, I know that it's successful, but would you say that it's the stuff in the book? Would you say it's the community, or would you say it's the way that the community interacts with the big book through sponsors and things like that? Like if you were to look at it, what do you think the most important part of AA is?
For me, the fellowship. I mean, it's the camaraderie, the people that you meet that, you know, nowadays when we go to a meeting, either before the meeting or after the meeting, we're talking. And as an alcoholic, we have sick minds, and we can recall that story that pissed everybody off. But, you know, we would probably laugh at it and make fun of each other. And be like, oh, I can top that one. And just go on and on and on and laugh all night. I love AA for the fact that the steps are there, and it helps you introduce you to like-minded people to bounce ideas off. If you have troubles, you can talk to them. You can ask for help. But I mean, I read the Bible front to back first before I read it, the AA book.
Give me 1 sec as you keep talking. I just need to check a camera.
Oh, we're falling apart.
No,
we lost somebody. Go ahead.
I would say initially it would be all of it, because you have, if you just would go and talk to your buddies, so you got the camaraderie, you know, you're lacking the structure of the big book. If you just go with the big book, now you have the structure, but then you don't have people helping hold you accountable. And, you know, for me anyways, as I went through and grew in my sobriety, that's when, you know, it's just like what they tell us at the meetings, you know, you take what's there that applies to you, and the rest you leave on the table for the next guy. So if it's that night, I need camaraderie, you know, like Shawn said, before the meeting and after the meeting. If you're showing up 30 seconds before the meeting and out the door as they're saying amen on the Our Father, you're not giving it 100%. The meeting happens before and after. Everything between the Serenity program and the Our Father is coffee and BS, is what they say.
I mean, I can see that.
So, but that being said, as you grow into your sobriety and you start getting comfortable and acclimated, and you have the structure and you have the support group, and you're going through the steps, then you kind of pull towards which one is going to be more applicable for what you have going on at that moment.
Sure.
I might need more support from my buds, this week. Next week it might be I got to read the big, I got to read Bill's story, or I got to read the doctor's opinion nonstop, until I fall asleep. Like it's whatever's going to get you through at that point. But I think you need each integral part working together. Again, some are going to lead out and take a stronger hold on you, but that would be kind of like how I look at it.
Fair enough. What are some other things on that daily basis? What are some other things that you guys kind of focus on? I mean, is there anything that you guys have hobbies? Do you have things that you kind of keep that keeps you active? Shawn, I know you do a lot of fishing this summer.
Yeah, I mean, between what time of the year it is, I love fishing up Lake Erie or any lake really. It's wintertime. I gun hunt, deer, bow hunt. I like building things on the side, and yes, I have construction company, but I like doing things on the side. I'll see something or mom like, hey, we should do this, and I don't know, just trying to figure it out. I love being around my family. I don't have any brothers or sisters, but my two closest cousins, Brian and Dean, they are my brothers.
Sure.
I golf a lot when I can. I mean, I stay busy with that, and so I'm doing quite a bit of stuff outside of AA.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it keeps you active, and you probably get to be a lot more active now that you're not hungover or
Oh,
you're
yeah.
not feeling the struggles of everything else
Right.
that come along with it. Ray, what about you, brother?
Well, of course, there's the motorcycle is the first thing. If I'm on two wheels, there's Shawn just got his
got my
on a
license
bike.
in April, and I bought an awesome Indian.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll grow up and get a Harley eventually.
Nope.
Hey, you're talking to a guy who's got KTMs in the garage, so I couldn't see myself getting a Harley, but
I mean, as long as you're in the wind and on two wheels, it don't matter.
I agree.
I wouldn't
100%.
ride it, but that don't mean you can't.
Well, the one thing that KTM does have in common with Harley is that they charge a lot for a lot of the same that's on everything else that competes with it. But hey, you're a Harley, you're a KTM, you just feel a little bit better. Go a little bit faster.
Yeah, or an Indian, I guess. But,
I scuba dive too.
Oh, there you go.
And just being in the wind and being on that bike is, that is just a great time to connect with God for me, my higher power. And I have 8 grandkids, so that keeps me extremely busy. I'm actually coaching 2 of their basketball teams on Saturdays. We just started last weekend, and my wife has this enormous craft room. She has 2 Cricut machines, and she makes all kinds of stuff, scrapbooks, goes on retreats.
I should introduce her to my mom.
She doesn't need any more, trust me.
That's what I thought too. I just meant like somewhere where my mom could get rid of her shit.
Oh, yes, you'll take it.
My mom lived in the same house for, I don't know, after her and my dad split, probably like 12, 14 years. And the guy who owned the house, he was renting it out to her, and it was a great deal for him, but he was an older guy. His kids were growing way apart. Then all of a sudden he's like, hey, my kids want to move back. I'm going to rebuild the house for him and do all this stuff. So, I'll give you like 6 months, but you're going to have to go. And so, my mom's not the most like go-getter when it comes to doing this stuff she doesn't want to do. So I think it was like a month before she had to be out of the house, and she's like, I have all this stuff in my basement and I don't know what to do with it. And my wife and I were over there for, I don't even know how long. And it was like, do you just buy stuff to like store it? Like,
yes.
Half of this stuff has still got the wrappers on it. She's like, well, when it's 90% off, you just got to get it. And I'm like, but it's in a box. The receipt's from like 1997. Like, it must have been a good deal for a reason. Nobody wants it.
Right.
You don't even want it. You haven't used it in 20 years. But it doesn't matter. I still need it.
Yeah. So that is the funnier part, though, is when we had this garage sale. Like, we're literally like, hey, look, $10, you can have whatever you can carry. Like, this is how we were trying to get rid of it. So I'm watching all the women. Your wife was probably one of them. Your girlfriend was probably one of them. Walk in there and just walk out with like bags full of ribbon and all this stuff. And I'm like, that is going in somebody's basement. And there's a husband somewhere that is like damn craft shit.
You would be surprised the amount she could carry. So. But yeah, so sitting up there hanging out with her, I started tinkering around doing some things. And yes, the big bad biker guy, I sew. So I actually had her buy me a sewing machine for Christmas and a couple years ago. So I make all the burp cloths, the blankets and stuff for the babies.
That's pretty cool.
So it's very therapeutic, believe it or not. Like
well, you got to come up with your own brand now. You got to have something that's called like baby biker sew team or something like that.
Right?
I don't know. You got to think of
that
something.
sounds like a sweatshop.
That's what I was thinking right away.
Yeah, you got to have
Right.
dude, freaking baby bikers. You could be sewing some kick ass like baby
Binkies,
Davidson
burp
freaking
cloths, and
dude.
Leather binkies.
But yeah, so I mean, I just when I have time, I do that. And it's funny that so after we talked yesterday about like that whole trying to figure things out and figure life out and stuff, and then my reading, my devotions, and the stuff that I do was all geared towards Jacob and Joseph. And it was, Joseph was the dreamer, and he has this dream that his brothers are going to bow down to him, that he's going to rule over them. And like immediately after that, his brothers sell him into slavery. So it's like a complete opposite of, and Joseph is known as the dreamer, like he can interpret dreams. So he believed this was full-heartedly a vision from God that he would be a ruler someday and over his siblings. And so it goes for decades before it actually turns around. And the story's kind of wild how it turns around. And there's a famine in the land, and he ends up being second in command under Pharaoh. And his brothers come to beg for money or for food because they're doing without, and they don't even recognize him at first. So it's pretty cool. And they're bowing down to him. And it's on the second time that they come that he reveals, hey, I'm the one that you sold into slavery. But it was like, what do I do when I got sober? Where was my life going to go? Like I said, I was indicted for 11 felonies. My grandmother just died. Like my world, I'm homeless, carless, jobless. Like what's going on? And if you would have told me 16 years from today, back then, that I would be on this podcast or ordained and doing preaching and doing baptisms and communions and prison fellowship, like Shawn said, we're going to be there tomorrow night, there would have been no way, that's never going to happen.
Right.
And here we are. And it's like, I just, like I said, when I start my day, I turn it over to God. Your will be done, not mine. And he has just put it in motion and put it on my heart that this is what I needed to be doing to help. He took care of me, got me through it, and that led me to him. And now I just look back for the next the next person that's suffering to help them and bring them forward to find whatever their higher power is and get them out of the darkness.
So got a question in here, Dean, again. Hey, appreciate you, brother. Make sure if you are listening and just not commenting, like and comment, share, subscribe. We'd like this to become a regular thing. We'd like to be able to help other people. And Dean's asking some great questions, and I'm sure there's others out there that are doing the same that maybe aren't going to AA currently, or they aren't going to church, or they don't have a close group of friends that they can communicate and talk with in a way that's not judged, and they just want to sit around a table with a bunch of guys and be able to do that in a space that's comfortable, which this is designed to do. Right.
Right.
So he asked, do you guys still hang out with people who still drink that you used to drink with back in the day? So I guess let's look at that as two parts, actually. Let's say, do you still hang out with people that drink? Because you guys are grown adults. There's obviously plenty of adults that still drink. And then let's look at that at the same point in time. Do you hang out with the people that you hung out to when you were in your worst spots? Let's start with you, Shawn.
All right. I got the glare. No, I don't. Like I said,
to which part? Let's
well,
go through.
yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay.
So after
Don't rush me.
I graduated high school, I moved to Cincinnati, in Northern Kentucky, and that's where all my drinking was, and all my buddies, and I drank with them all the time. as an alcoholic, grateful recovering alcoholic, one of my things to do is to run from a situation. So I did a geographical cure. I moved from Medina, Seville area to Cincinnati, and things went good for a while. Then I started getting in trouble and this and that. And then, went through divorce. Kids they were young enough to where they kind of were there. I think they acted like they were happy to be around me, but they didn't want to be around me because I was always drunk.
Right.
And then started dating my fiance now. So I did the geographical cure. I'm like, well, I'm going to move away too, to come back up here. So I moved up here, and it was good for a while, and I was going down to see my kids every other weekend. And as soon as they weren't, either they went to bed or they went back to their moms or whatever, then I would call my buddies up and go drinking and this and that. I'm back in Medina now. I got away from those people. And in Medina, I couldn't get away from myself. I drank by myself every day in my truck, driving around, not proud of that. I couldn't get away from myself. Now that I am sober, I can go down there, and if I run into people, I don't care. That's fine. We just went to a party Saturday night with other adults, I don't know, 15, 20 people. Everyone's drinking behind the bar, whatever. I don't have that urge. I even bartended at my brother-in-law's bar earlier this year. I had fun. I bartended through high school, through college, and it was fun. But I also, talking to the customers and that, and smelling it, and I'm like, it did not appeal to me whatsoever. I have a lot of friends that came to the bar and I heard the same story 6 times, and I'm like, this is annoying. God took that obsession away from me. It doesn't bother me. I can go to a liquor store. I can go hang out with friends at a bar, at a party. I do know before I go to that party, I have a plan. If by chance I started feeling just odd or weird, it hasn't happened. I don't think it will. I hope it doesn't. But I'm aware that it could. I have a way out. I don't want to give up what God's given me, what I've earned, what I've been doing. I remember very much what it was like. I don't want that again. So I want to get myself out of that situation right away. But to be around it and go hang out and do whatever, I enjoy it. I like doing it. It's fun. I'm making memories that I can remember, and I can tell stories. Because a lot of times after I got sober, I was going to get around certain people like, hey, remember that time? Or maybe someone had a health issue or whatever. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of listening into them kind of tell it. I'm like, oh yeah. And I would kind of remember certain parts.
Yeah.
But I had that amnesia. And sometimes it was important things. Either they, had lost a friend or a family member, or I had no idea. But I should have known because I was there.
Right.
But I don't remember it.
Right. Yeah. So now you have that feeling of
that's just, it's the amnesia. I'm like, I got to act like I know and I remember. Yeah, I remember. No, I don't. And it's sad.
Remember if I hear that coming.
Right.
Yeah. Later. Ray, what about you?
Initially, it was definitely a hard no.
Both to
everything.
Not being around drinking and not being obviously.
Yes, I could not handle it.
And that's tough because obviously biker. You got certain people you ride with every day, every weekend. You go
all the time,
trips,
And it was just, when they tell you if you want to be successful, you got to change everything but your name, and that. Again, geographically, like everything, that's what I did. And it just, I isolated myself. I found a great couple meetings where I found some guys that just, again, surrounded me, loved on me, supported me, called me, checked on me, made sure if I didn't have anything going on, they had some, even if they didn't, they made something up and drugged me along just to keep me, away from myself, basically.
Sure.
And as the years have progressed, I've reconnected with a few people because it's very hard. Again, my family are all pretty much drinkers and stuff. And it's like,
is that still the case? Has anybody in your family kind of looked at your path and been like, hey, you know what, Ray's got it figured
not a
out?
one of them.
No, so there's
Bible thumper, get out of here with your and I'm
Oh.
and I love it because I'm like, whatever, man.
At least I could drive home.
Well, yeah,
Safely.
yeah, you're gonna be driving us home. That's what I get. Like, we got a D&D now, we're good. I'm like, hey, I'd rather get that call at 3 a.m. that you need a ride than
Yeah, 100%.
anything else.
That's a good deal.
And but yeah, it's just the drinking and stuff. And again, it was very difficult. And I mean, like, not going to family members' functions or their houses and stuff because they were triggers for me.
Yeah.
And knowing that and that you have these triggers and addressing them, that's key. That's huge. And then also as you start because again, you're never going to get away from it.
Sure.
So, God, prepare me for this. I want to be around my family. I want to be around my friends. I want to enjoy this birthday or this 4th of July celebration. Put your hedge of protection over me and allow me and develop an escape plan that if something gets to where you get that itch, don't scratch it, man, get out of there.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing, the best advice I can give. That's what I did.
So once again, guys, if you're listening, please like, subscribe, and share the information. I know that Ray's got, a considerable following on TikTok and things like that. So, let them know too if after the show they can actually catch a cup on YouTube and see it on there as well, just so they can get a little bit better sound because I'm sure they're trying to hear that through that mic is not the easiest. But the idea is that we can do this weekly. We can have a great conversation. Maybe we bring a couple people in here and there, talk about some other programs that are out there. But we want to hear the struggles that guys have. We want to hear questions about any of that stuff. And I go ahead.
The biggest thing that I just want to bring up is it's about addiction, and be it alcohol, drugs. Shawn and I are both small group leaders for Celebrate Recovery. If you're not familiar with that, that's any hurt, habit, or hang up. So I mean, that could be divorce, that could be womanizing, that could be porn addiction, overeating,
Gambling, drinking too much pop,
anything. So don't feel like secluded, like, I have a porn addiction or my wife left me. And, like you were saying about divorce and stuff, it's any hurt, any habit, or any hang up, anything that gnaws at you or, any addiction at all, that don't just feel like, well, these guys are, great for alcohol or drugs, but they can't help me. And not saying that we can, but we will definitely try, and I will find you an avenue that will support you and put you in the right place where you need to be. So don't just limit it to, alcohol and drugs. It's anybody.
Yeah. And I imagine, we talked about these different daily habits that we have and why we have them. I mean, obviously not drinking is also a habit, right? Like it's, and then, one of the things I tell people, if you ever read the book Atomic Habits, awesome book. What he talks about, like, you can't just say, I'm going to start these 10 habits tomorrow and then be instantly successful. Like if you start 10 tomorrow, you might accomplish 2. And then the next day, you might not even do those 2. You might do 2 others. And then the third day, you might not do any, but that doesn't mean, hey, it's time to give up. It means that, it's time to, all right, look at them again. Is this habit possible? Does this habit allow you to do the next habit? And that's called habit stacking, right? And that's why, like I said, when I schedule my day, it's all right, get up, cold shower. Then it's get dressed, take the dogs downstairs. I take my breakfast after I feed them theirs. I get up, I go to the gym, I come back, I make my phone calls that I have to make first thing in the morning. I go through my process. And then when I end the day, it's cold shower, vitamins, bed. Like it's a set process. And hopefully along the way that the 10 or 12 habits that I have in between that I want to do, I accomplish those. But if I track it every day, then I can say, okay, you know what, maybe this one I'm not ready for it, but I can focus on this one. So, drinking, obviously that's something, if you decide you want to quit, that's fantastic. I wish everybody the best of luck, whether you're going through the program or whatever, but would you say that it's 100% first time stop? Or
no.
So it's important for people to realize, like, there's little things that you could be doing leading up to that point where you're going to stop. Like, hey, you know what? every morning I'm going to wake up and I'm going to use cold shower, for example. I'm going to take an ice cold shower before I start my day. That's one step to building towards really that habit of not drinking.
Right. And it can be. It's a discipline. I mean, it's just like working out or anything. You know, when you first started, it's very difficult because it's like, man, I don't feel like it today. And it's real easy to back out of it and get an excuse.
Yeah.
You know, but after you do it for a while, now it becomes that routine.
Sure.
Where if you miss a day because something came up, you got a phone call, a business meeting, whatever, you know, and you weren't able to get that workout in or that part of your routine, you're like,
your day's jacked.
Yeah. You're like, I don't feel good about my, like, I'm going to have to do twice as much tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like that's where it needs to be and where it will get to. But it's getting over that hump of that initial discipline of, you know, I'm picking up these heavy weights. You know, this is stupid. I'm putting them back down. I'm picking them up. I'm putting, you know, what's going on here? Like,
I pick things up. I put things down.
Right. But then the longer you do it, you start getting stronger, feeling better, healthier, you know, and then, like I said, when you take a day off, you feel lazy. You feel like you're a piece of crap. You sat on the couch all day when you didn't because you were so busy, but it's like, that's where you want to be.
That's how you feel.
Right.
Yeah. Well, now I don't want to do anything. I messed this up. I want to start the next day over again.
Right.
And I'm sure that, you know, when you talk about addiction and things like that, that becomes an issue as well. Like, oh, I screwed it up, so I might as well just not try again, you know, because you're not in the best headspace. Like, let's face it, like, even the person that's, you know, maybe only drinks once a week, once a month, once a year, whatever the case, like, you can't tell me that you don't fall into a deep depression the next day after a day of heavy drinking. Like, your thoughts are the worst thoughts in the world. You can't concentrate on anything except what's going bad in your life. So, you know, if you screw up and you have that day where you fall off that wagon, like, that next day is going to be even worse, you know, because you're going to be like, I can't believe I did that.
And I have been blessed. I have not relapsed. But I will say this, in the rooms, you know, I have witnessed plenty of people that have went back out and they come back in, and there's two things that happen. The first thing they do is tell us it didn't get any better out there. And the second thing is everybody welcomes them like it's their first time and just embraces them with love and support, that nobody's here to judge you. Again, we're all bad, and it's just love on you, support you, and get you through it. Let's not worry about that. Let's focus on what made you go back out and prevent that from happening again.
Well, and that, you know, it's funny because we had a couple of guys on this weekend on the Guys Night podcast, and they're all, you know, personal trainers, you know, bodybuilders and different things. And, you know, the one thing they all talked about was like, hey, dude, if somebody comes up to me and wants to, like, learn about lifting weights or whatever, like, you know, I might not spend hours with them, but I'd be happy to point them in the right direction and then teach them some things or whatever. But what, you know, to me, the even though it's different, but it's the same when you talk about, you know, somebody that's an alcoholic or somebody that's addicted to drugs or pills or things like that, is the same way I would feel. I think a lot of Americans feel today with obesity being such a problem is, I'm 300 pounds. That first day in the gym has got to be the hardest thing in the world if you let yourself go to that point. And then all you can think about is the end result being so far away. So in your examples, 4 years sobriety 4 years ago probably seemed like eternity, right? 16 years ago. Could you imagine looking forward and seeing yourself doing what you're doing now? So once again, we break this back to, you know, habits. For all kinds of things. You want to get into better shape, it starts one day at a time. You want to start eating healthier, it starts one day at a time. You want to be a better father, you want to be a better husband, you want to, you know, spend more time with your kids, you want to, all that stuff, it starts with one day. You just making the decision that, hey, today's the day that I'm gonna make this a key focus in my life. And maybe it's, you know, you have to be a little bit less selfish and you have to throw something away that you enjoy doing, or maybe it's, you know, you aren't spending as much time at work, you make a little bit less money. But if it's that important to you, and a lot of things that I just mentioned, you know, wives, kids, you know, health, fitness, sobriety, these things are way more important than an extra couple bucks in your pocket, because
For sure.
for you to abuse all those things that you want to, or the things you want to do better, you're spending money. If you're not taking your kid to the game, that means you're having somebody else take them, or if you're not working out, that means your health is shortening your lifespan by a couple of years. If you're not sober, it means that you are probably spending a shitload of money on alcohol, drugs, and everything in between. That, hey, you could have taken an extra day off of work if you just stayed sober all week.
Right.
And Ray, that goes back to, you were talking about, like, you said just smoking was was it smoking you talked about the other day? $1,100 a month.
The alcohol. So beer, a 18 pack for her, 24 pack for me, and a fifth of Jack, and then a carton of cigarettes every 5 days. 11, and that's back in 2008. $1,100 a month.
Yeah. So like at that point in time, you're probably sitting there like, man, we can't afford to do this. We can't go on vacation. We can't do this. And then you're like, shit, we could have afforded a second house at $1,100 a month back then.
I mean, you were talking about going to the bar with $40 in your pocket. Please.
Yeah.
my bar tab was, over 200, and I'm not buying rounds for the bar. And, I might have one buddy or a couple that I'm getting a drink for here and there, but it ain't like I'm throwing it around like for everybody. That's just me.
Yeah.
So I envy that.
Yeah. I mean, envy
you were saying to all your examples there, but the one day at a time, sometimes it's 1 minute at a time. At the beginning, it was like, all right, let's get to noon. And then, all right, let's work till 4. As far as like what I don't want to do, drink for me, building those habits. And the hardest thing, or not the hardest thing, but probably the tough thing to do is just to wait. Don't put time constraints on it. I'm going to give it a month, see what happens. Just wait, that it'll happen. It's like I got a call from my cousin, Dean, I mentioned earlier this past week. And he's like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm going here. I just left this meeting. And he doesn't want to tell you, I'm just proud of you. It's like 4.5 years later. I know my family and friends see what I'm doing, but it's like, that's that daily amends that I make. I apologized once from the get-go. I'm not going to apologize again because it's not going to do any good. My apology to you daily is that I keep moving forward, doing the next right thing. Keep them feet moving forward.
Yeah.
Don't sit idle too long. If you are, then you got to start reaching out and calling and asking. You can't do it by yourself. There's a few people that even I know that have quit without really working a program. God love them. I can't do that.
Yeah.
My mind's not set that way.
Well, everybody's different in every aspect of it. You talk about one, excuse me. God, I don't know where that came from. You talk about, it might be 1 minute at a time, but you're 100% right. Because if you're going to dedicate yourself to doing some aspect of your life better, like it could come down to every minute. The worst part you could do is give up because you didn't make it. Dean made a comment, I told myself that, 1 year I can make 1 year, and that's how he messed up. He had that goal for 1 year.
Yeah. I mean, any goal is unrealistic in my eyes. I mean, you're talking to a guy that there was
when it comes to sobriety.
Yeah. Or any addiction. I mean, again, when I went to bed, there was a half a glass of Jack Daniels and a Budweiser or Bud Light beer can. It didn't matter if middle of summer, the air's not, when my eyes opened, the Jack went down, the can of beer went down, and then I got up out of the bed.
Yeah.
Because it was, I would have the tremors, I would have the shakes, I would have whatever. That just waking up and walking to the bathroom and walking to the refrigerator is an accomplishment.
Yeah.
I mean, set your goals, have goals. Realistic.
Yeah.
Put them in a perspective of, look at what I've done. Look at where I am. You think you're just going to quit and it's going to be like,
yeah, there's so many challenges in between.
I mean, not that can happen, but if you are looking so far ahead, like you said, with working out or losing weight, if I'm 300 pounds and I want to be down to 200.
Yeah. I mean, every day is going to be a disappointment for probably a year and a half at least.
But if, if I go to the gym that first day and I go, all right, I'm going to walk on that treadmill for 5 minutes and I push myself to 6.
Yeah.
Right on. You know,
Yeah,
like
100%.
set that baby steps, man.
Mm.
Baby steps.
So we're gonna wrap this up here pretty soon, but I do have a question about reward system. Did you create any kind of reward systems for yourself? Like, hey, if I make it, you know, we talked about minute by minute, and obviously you guys weren't thinking goals at the time, but like, hey, you know what? If I'm sober next June and I'm still doing a good job, that extra money that I was, where you put money aside, like, hey, I used to spend this on drinking, now I'm going to pop it into this little can, or, and if I'm still doing good in a year from now, maybe I'll buy myself a new bike, or I'll buy myself. Did you guys do anything like that to kind of give you some like additional, you know, something else to look at is like, man, not only am I feeling better, not only am I still sober, but holy crap, if I put that in the dollars that I put away, you know, wow. Did you guys do anything like that to kind of keep yourself focused, or any other side little things?
I didn't really have, and I don't really right now, like a year from now or whatever. When I first got sober, and I was just talking to my fiance about this the other day. I got to find it. I know I have it somewhere, but I had my counselor was like, write down a 1 year, or like a 1 week, 1 month, 1 year plan, 5 year plan, realistically.
Sure.
And a lot of those were, well, one was to get engaged, and I am, to get a new truck, and I did. I would like to find some land to build a house on. We are in the process of purchasing 8 acres in Seville.
Yeah.
So I can build a home maybe in 2 years or less. I remember those goals in my 5 year plan, and this May 25 will be 5 years. From here out, I don't really have anything. I want to own property that we can go to down in Florida and things like that. If it happens next year, if it happens 10 years from now, it's a goal.
Yeah.
You know, it's a realistic goal. You know, I just keep working hard. You know, outside of that, I really don't have anything major. I mean, I wanted to learn how to ride. I did. I bought a bike. I don't know.
Have you ridden it yet?
Yeah, all summer.
Oh yeah, I guess you know, it's funny. It's only been cold for.
We don't mean just like last week or
yeah. It's
April.
I was gonna say
I got to write it in Grafton Prison. That's something else we get to do is build glass events. We do
really?
locally, and I know you're trying to wrap it up, but
no, that's okay.
And we can talk about that more in another one. But you know, as volunteers for Build Glass, we rode our motorcycles in Grafton Prison, and then we go to and we're running around in their yard, just revving them up right in front of their campuses where they sleep, their dorm rooms, and it's cool. That's a whole another thing we can talk about next time.
Absolutely. We'll definitely have to get into that. Well, we're gonna wrap it up tonight, guys. Once again, if anybody did, you know what, we didn't get into your goals. Thank you, I appreciate it. Did you set goals for yourself? Sorry.
My only goal that I had was to not feel pain anymore, not have to numb myself, to be able to cope with it. And, you know, the last couple years have really come into that for me. And I have, like Shawn was saying earlier about that peace that you have, I have found fleeting moments here and there, and they're getting more compacted together and building up of just that peace. I'm not that big dreamer like that. Like, I don't deserve the life I have. I am so blessed. I have a beautiful, wonderful, supportive wife, beautiful children. Everybody's healthy. My parents are still alive. You know, like, I'm just blessed. Like, to say that I want things and stuff, sure. But I don't look at them like expectations, or it would be nice to have that. I try to just stay right in the, man, I've never had it so good.
Yeah.
Like, I am just, this is awesome. And just enjoy what I have. And again, it's the one of the hardest things to wrap your head around is you have to give it away to keep it, with that whole helping and stuff. And that's why we volunteer and do all of this. You know, it's like going to prison and stuff. When we go in there and we talk to these guys and we evangelize to them, or we share with them, when I'm coming home, like, I'm a free man. I'm this, but I am like just so overwhelmed with emotion of what has been, as I'm pouring into these guys and trying to pump them up, what's being fed to me
right
in doing that. And that's, you can't explain that. It's just, it's an amazing feeling of, wow. And like, I just try to bask in that more so than, again, I got a beautiful home, a great job, all the things I need. And if they all get taken away, I still got
your
my
sobriety,
voice,
still
my
got-
sobriety,
yeah.
and the opportunity to help somebody.
Oh, yeah,
So,
man. All right, guys. Well, hey, thank you for those who tuned in. Thanks, guys, for joining. Episode 1 is complete. We'll do this again next Tuesday. And
yeah,
see if
thank
we
you
can do
guys,
it.
and thanks Dean for the questions and comments and stuff. Right
yeah,
on.
yeah. So make sure if you guys come across this, just go ahead and hit like, share, subscribe. Help some people out. Doesn't cost you anything.
Come
It
up
does
with
a
some
lot for
questions
us.
for next week.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.